take us back to the beginning. How did you discover your passion for the arts?
So my dad's side of the family is very musical and like artistic. Like we would do karaoke all the time when we were younger. So I always knew I loved to perform and sing and act. And I did a cappella in high school and college, and like school musicals. So I think I always knew I loved it, but I didn't know I could do it professionally, until my freshman year of college. And basically, I went to an open call for a Broadway musical, called Spring Awakening, because I loved the show so much. And then I freaking got it. I got the role, or I got the part. And then through that, I got an agent. And then I kind of started my professional career. But I always loved to perform. I just didn't know I could really do it and as a job.
Yeah, when you look at your career as a whole, who or what's had the biggest influence, either personally or professionally?
I mean, definitely, it might be cliche, but my parents, no doubt. Without their support, I know for sure I would not be here. Like everything they've sacrificed and to give me the opportunities. Like if I didn't have a way to pursue the arts, like I wouldn't be here, but my parents provided an environment where I felt I could pursue it. And um, they supported me, they gave me the room for it. And then I also have a music teacher from high school who, I wasn't in choir or anything in high school for a couple years. And then I finally auditioned for like this variety show. And my choir teacher, Mr. S, he was like, hey, like, are you in choir? Like, and I was like, no, I'm not, like after my audition. And he was like, you should join. And he was like, you should try out for the a cappella group too. And I was like, okay. And he kind of, I don't think I like believed that, I don't know. I know like I was good. I don't know. I wasn't sure, but like him being like, hey, you should do it made me think, oh, I should do music. And then that kind of led me to be like, oh, I should do music in college. Like I should do something that's related to music in college, which is why I went to NYU for music business. Um, but then through that, I was in New York, and then I went to that open call, and then I got the show. You know what I mean? So he kind of really encouraged me to just believe in myself and like just trust in my talent. So that was, yeah, he was a big influence for sure.
And you've had a lot of success already in your career. When you look back, is there a particular moment that stands out to you?
Oh man. I guess like, I guess that first show, like that was wild. Spring Awakening, just being like, apparently I called my parents after I got it, and I was like, and they're gonna pay me. Like I didn't even, that wasn't even a thing, I was just excited to do it. I think doing Heather's the musical off Broadway, that was a moment, because that was also just a fun musical, and it got such a cult following, and all these teenagers just loved it so much, and like they still support us, and like that's so cool. And then I have to say, I did an indie movie called Brittany Runs a Marathon. And we went to Sundance, and it was just like a really cool movie. It was really funny, and I was just really proud of that one and like my work in it. So yeah, but everything I do, I'm just always grateful, and it's always fun.
That and the industry has really made some slow progress and greater representation on screen. As an Asian American creative, what has your experience been like, and have you seen or felt that progress that's being made?
Yeah, I've definitely felt the progress for sure. I mean, when I first started, I guess like 10 years ago, even then roles weren't as open as they are now. Like they were a lot more specific and like just Asian, or like a stereotype, or they have an accent, but now I feel like there's a lot more roles, and, just a lot more creatives too, like directors, producers, writers who are Asian, which I think is important. I think we need people in leadership positions. I think that's very important. But I mean, I always think there's still more room to grow. Yeah, because it's not just about, like, it's about what the quality of the work is too,
Mhm.
just telling as many stories as possible. It's not just about having one Asian person in your cast, and you can't be like, okay, well, no, we're diverse, it's like, or it's how do you utilize them? How do you give them life that's beyond what you might even still think is a stereotype. You don't even realize unconsciously that they're playing some kind, you know? So I I'm very hopeful. I feel like it's a lot better. But there's always more room. So it's, you know, it's you have
Yeah.
to be grateful for the progress. I mean, no one can deny the progress. But I feel like it's slowly, like you said, it's slowly progressing. But um yeah, I'm hopeful. I'm optimistic. I think there are lots of moves being made. I think there's so many cool Asian actors, directors, producers again, kind of coming up now. And I think the audience, I think the public is seeing, oh, like, you know, because everyone, it's always like people are like, oh, well, you know, we feel like it won't sell, or like, you know, everyone's
Mhm.
always like, oh, you know, it's not marketable. But I think we're all proving like, no, like, of course, because our story is still everyone else's story. You know, we're just human. So everyone can relate to every kind of story. So it's like, obviously, this makes sense. So I think more people are seeing that. Like, you can have an all Asian cast movie like Crazy Rich Asians, but like everyone can still relate to it and love it, you know? And it's like, that makes sense to me. Or like The Farewell, what a beautiful movie, you know? And Parasite, you know, it's just like, and even movies that aren't just all Asian, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I feel like mixing it up too, where it's not just like an Asian movie or
Mhm.
like an Asian show, which is also so great, but also where it's like, I don't know, we're all just, I don't normal shit, you know? I don't even know. Yeah, like, but I think it's happening.
And speaking of representation, you're currently one of the stars of Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist. And in the most recent episode, we learned that your character is struggling with postpartum depression and mental health, which, we don't often see depicted in mainstream media. What has it meant to you to be part of such a groundbreaking storyline? And did that bring any pressure?
Definitely. I mean, I was anxious for sure because I wanted to do it justice. And I know it's such a heavy, important topic, and I'm not a mom. And so that was also like, I just wanted to do it right for all the moms out there. And yeah, it was very emotional and raw. So I was nervous. But it's just been amazing to see the feedback and like everyone just commenting and what it's meant to them to feel seen and heard. And you're right, like people don't talk about it a lot, especially postpartum and for women and having babies. And it feels really nice. Like I feel very humbled and honored to be a part of that story. And it just feels good to know that you can help people not feel alone, you know? And part of art is to, you know, it's so that people can watch and be like, oh, like I'm not alone. Like that this happens to people, and just being seen and heard, so that you can kind of get rid of the stigma as well. Because the more you talk about it, the more you see about the more you see issues like on TV and film, it doesn't become as scary, you know, it doesn't become as scary to talk about because you're like, and I think something like postpartum where it's so like you don't talk about it, it's like, why shouldn't we talk about it? There should be no shame, you know, people get depressed, like it's just natural. And so I think even normalizing that and normalizing those conversations, I think is important. So yeah, it was really cool. It's so different out of my realm of what I usually have done. So it was challenging, but I loved the challenge. And yeah, it was super neat. And everyone was amazing on the show. Jane was so gracious during all those scenes. And Austin, the showrunner, was very supportive. So yeah, it was amazing.
And we have to talk about that closing scene in episode 9 where you performed Demi Lovato's Anyone. How did you prepare for that scene? And what is kind of like the moments after when you finish wrapping up? Like, what were you feeling in that moment?
Yeah. So before we did the actual scene, we recorded the song because we knew we might do it live, but just in case, we were like, let's record it first. And even then, like that time, I was in a booth and like they like dimmed the lights for me, so like I can kind of get into it. And I sang it, but the one that's on TV, I think it was live. I think they went with whatever I did live. Because we started doing it and they're like, you know what, try it live. Like they're like, I think you can do it. So we actually started with that song first because it was so heavy, because it was like Rosanna going into that number, and that transition is actually very difficult. So we tried it a couple times. It's hard, you know, it's interesting because like that's what acting is, I guess. You know, you're so vulnerable and you have to like be so vulnerable, but there are all these people, you know, it's not reality where I'm just there with my sister-in-law, you know, it's like, no, 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 it's the whole crew, and like it's, and there's time, like we got to get the stuff, you know, so it's like all these elements, and like where do I sit, where do I stand, like where's the, you know, and like all these things, and during all that, just making sure I'm feeling everything. It was definitely wild. Like I'm almost like after it was done, I was like, did you guys get it? Like, did I do it? Like, did you know what I mean? I'm like, it kind of just goes by. And then you just trust that you did the work and that they were happy with the work, you know? And I'm really proud of what they put out. And it really takes a village though, you know, every single person just coming together. And I couldn't have done that performance if that whole environment wasn't like that, you know? So, yeah, no matter what, it's always fun. Like I always look back and I was like, oh, that was really cool, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. And it's definitely the standout moment, at least for me, throughout the
Oh,
series.
thanks.
It was absolutely fantastic.
Oh, thank you so much.
Another thing that I really appreciate about the show is that we've seen Emily now grow from season 1 into season 2. When you look at her journey, has anything surprised you? And like, what's ahead for her in the back half of season 2?
Right, I guess. Yeah, because I feel like in the beginning you weren't quite sure, you were getting to know Emily. You know, she was kind of she was in the family, but like it was more about Mitch and like their journey. And I just love how now you're just really getting to know her and her backstory and even her family, her sister, you know, like you're like, oh, I see, like she's that sister and she's that sister, and seeing that dynamic and seeing her dynamic more with everyone else, like with her husband, and just seeing how they support each other through everything, and seeing her relationship grow with Maggie, her mother-in-law, and Zoey, and just seeing, yeah, her arc, how like, you know, up until these episodes, you've just kind of seen Emily like doing her thing. You would have never known that she was going through like postpartum, but that's also kind of what happens. Like people don't notice, people don't know that's happening. And so just even that arc of like finally getting to see like, oh, like what that journey was, I think has been really cool. And yeah, in the future, she's definitely, Emily's gonna get help, and you'll see that, you won't like see it explicitly, but you'll know that she is seeking help and getting help, and just readjusting to family life and connecting with Maggie a bit more. There's also a flashback episode that's going to come up. Yeah, and so you'll kind of see where everyone was like 6, 7 years ago, which will
Oh,
be
cool.
fun. Yeah, and you see Emily and David meet or re-meet, but you'll see, yeah, but it's really cute. Like it's like way back when, and it's adorable. So yeah.
Yeah, and in addition to the show, you have a new single out now. Can you tell us about stories and the inspiration behind the song?
You're so sweet. Yeah. So yeah, my single stories. I mean, it's about like a casual relationship and where you both know it's not actually going to go somewhere, but like you still like, you know, want to feel special and whatever. But yeah, I've just been doing a lot of more music. I feel like in the music industry as well, I feel like there's so much more room for Asian American artists, especially in the pop world. I'm just like,
Mhm.
where, like BTS is there, but like they're in Korea. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I just feel, and I know there are Asian American artists, like musicians doing their thing, but I'm like talking like, where's the Rihanna? Like, where's the Taylor Swift? Like, right? Like, I'm like, you don't see Asian musicians yet, and I just feel like there's room for that. So I'm just trying to do more pop music, which is honestly my biggest passion. Like music is like my thing, like writing and producing. But yeah, I also have another single coming out end of May, and actually a couple Zoe's cast members are going to be in the music video.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, it's called Body, and it's like it should be a fun summer jam. So John's going to be in it, and Cap is going to be in it, from
Uh,
Zoe's. So yeah, that'll be
that's
fun.
awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for, yeah, thanks.
No, something else that I love about you is that you've used your platform to champion causes that you're passionate about. How did you discover your voice as an advocate?
Honestly, like I really do think last summer, you know, it was pandemic and just everything coming to with Black Lives Matter, and I think like so many things it's that I've known in my heart and felt for so long, you know, but I never knew how to vocalize, or it's just or I was suppressing a lot of feelings, or not really acknowledging what was happening. And I think that summer really, it's so cliche, but I was kind of like, it opened my eyes. I was like, oh, wow, yeah, right. Like, of course, like this is all the things I've known. And I'm sorry. And you know, I feel like as Asian Americans too, it's like you just don't know when you're supposed to say something,
Hmm.
you know? And I think finally, it's really just happened this past year where I've really felt like, you know, what we feel is, I'm so sorry, I'm getting emotional.
No, no.
um, just that what we feel is valid, and that I'm so sorry. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah, just this past year, just knowing that like, once again, that we're not alone, that what I've been feeling is not wrong. Like, oh, okay, like, and knowing that there's a community of us where, yeah, like it's just so communal. And I think now I'm not so afraid to like just say what I feel, because I just know that's my truth, you know.
Hmm.
And and I do feel like there is an element, you know, when I don't feel like I'm like in the public eye, but like just barely kind of, you know, like a little bit. And in in like social media, it's like I have to say something, like, you know what I mean? Like you just don't know who or where you'll make a difference, and like who needs to hear what you have to say. Because so even that is scary for me sometimes. Like so sometimes like posting on social media like is nerve wracking, and I'm like, oh, what do I say? Like, and sometimes it's hard for me to say stuff, and but I know what I feel, but I'm like, I still have to present it because that matters. And I do think social media matters in that way, where you have to see it, you know, like show me you believe it, you know, like it kind of, and I know it's hard because some people are like, just because you don't post it on social media it doesn't mean that you don't believe it. But like to me, like if you're also in a position of, you're in the public eye and you know that all these people are looking at you, I'm like, why wouldn't you say something? You know, you got like, yeah. But it's been a journey for me, like just discovering my voice and feeling confident in my voice. Yeah, it's been a journey, but I'm so much happier on this side, you know, like I'd rather know the ugly truth, you know? And again, it's like the truth that we've all known, I think, like all our lives, but just
Yeah.
being able to now, like, so it's been a lot. Like it's been a very emotional year, you know? It's just been
Yeah.
so many things. Yeah.
So speaking of like making a difference, have you had time to reflect on your own impact with communities that really want to see themselves represented on screen, and in fact that you're paving the way for people that are going to be coming up?
Right. I mean, yeah, it's always interesting because I'm always like, oh, like who am I? I'm like, I'm just Alice. Like I don't really know, you know? But I do, it is cool and it is humbling, like, because I do recognize that I'm in these spaces where, yeah, like it will make a difference for someone to see an Asian American woman like on the screen, like in a show like Zoey's, where, you know, it's not even, oh, like she's Asian. It's more like she's there, like but she's
Hmm.
Asian, you know? And even like a musical like Heather's, where it's like to see like an Asian girl playing a mean girl, like, you know, a character that's not like the nerdy, I don't know, like I do, yeah, like I feel it. It's more just, I don't even think of it as like paving a path or anything, I guess. Like I don't even, it's almost like I can't think about it too much, you know, because then it's like a lot of pressure. And also it's like trying to be the best example. I think a lot, the thing with performers of color, or people of color who are in positions where they have to represent their whole community, you know, you feel like you have to represent, and so we have to be good, or like we have to be the best for, or whatever that is, and like there's that pressure when it's like, but there's so many of us and we're all so different. And it's like not one person can represent a whole community, but like it's still so significant to see that, I think visibility is very important. That's why I was going to talk about the Golden Globes, but I shouldn't go into that. But yeah, it's just humbling. Yeah, I don't even think about it much. I just am trying to do the best I can and do what my heart is saying and go with my heart and like what my passions are. And I think if I just follow that, like naturally everything else will fall into place and naturally people will see, oh, like that's why even with music, I'm like, to see an Asian American pop artist who's Asian, but also like fully American. Like I always say, like I'm 100% Korean and I'm 100% American. Like they're not mutually exclusive. Like I'm just like completely both things. And I think again, people aren't used to that, or like, I don't know. I feel like especially, white audiences, I guess it's hard for them to imagine anything else, so they have to see it. So if you see more of like what's different, it normalizes it and you're like, oh, okay,
Mhm.
and so I feel like I just got to keep on trucking and do my thing and trust myself. And, as I start to like make my own stuff, like my music videos and my music, I want to be conscious of what I'm putting out there and who I'm working with and what, you know what I mean? What messages I'm sending out. So that is kind of, I feel a responsibility in that way. As an actor, I'm getting hired. So I don't have that kind of power in
Mhm.
choosing who to work with or like choosing the environment, But I think what's so cool again, in being in a leadership position, the more people of color are in leadership positions, it's like, then you get to make those decisions and you decide, and I think that's slowly where like change is made, because yeah, it's up to you now, and there's that responsibility. So yeah, I don't even know what I was saying.
No, that's a great answer.
Okay, cool.
And then we just like to end all of our interviews with a pop culture speed round. Do you have a guilty pleasure TV show?
Guilty pleasure TV show. I mean, is it even a guilty pleasure? Chopped?
So good.
So good. Food Network is my jam.
Yeah, for sure. What about a guilty pleasure movie?
Guilty pleasure movie. I loved Hot Tub Time Machine. I don't know why that just popped into my head. Do you know that movie, Hot Tub
Yeah,
Time Machine?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I just
It's a
thought that was cool.
classic.
Yeah, I don't know why that popped in my head. So that's the point, right? Whatever just pops into my head.
What about your favorite book?
Ooh, favorite book. Right now it's Pachinko by Minjin Lee. Do you know it?
No, I don't. I need to check that out.
Yeah, it's really long, but Apple TV is actually making it into a show, and it's about like a four-generational women in Korea from like the 1920s to the 1950s. So it's like
Cool.
kind of like a period piece, but I just love the book. It was amazing. Kind of let me
Uh,
kind of tap into my history as well, So yeah.
Definitely need to check that out.
Yeah.
What about a favorite play or musical?
Oh, that one's hard. Favorite play or musical? Oh, man. I mean, so part of me feels like I should say Spring Awakening because I loved that. I mean, I was obsessed with it. You know what I mean? But like now that I was in it and I'm removed from it, I'm like, oh, I can't listen to that soundtrack ever again. You know what I mean? But that was my favorite. I also do really love Rock of Ages.
Mhm.
Every time I watch that, I have such a blast. So yeah, I think those two for now.
What about a band or artist that fans would be surprised to learn is on your playlist?
Ooh, that they would be surprised to learn. Let me look at my playlist. I wonder. Who would they be surprised? That they'd be surprised that I listen to them? I mean, I love me some Anderson .Paak, but I don't know if that's surprising.
That's
I
a good
kind of
one.
look like, yeah, I mean, I look like I would listen to Anderson .Paak though. But yeah, Anderson .Paak. But I also do sometimes love like Jonas Brothers songs. They just they have great writers. I don't know if they're writing all their songs, but they have great writers who are just giving them catchy shit. So,
What about an album that changed your life and why?
I would have to say Sarah Bareilles. I think I forget which album. It's probably Little Voice. That album was when I was in college, and I feel like that's the last album that I like distinctly remember where I just was like in love with it, and it kind of inspired me to write more songs, like be more singer-songwritery. And now I'm a lot more pop, like pure pop. But yeah, I just think she's amazing. So yeah.
Love that. And then final question for you. Who would play you in the story of your life?
um, in the story of my life, I think I'm gonna say me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna play me in the story of my life. But also, that's another thing where I'm like, I feel like for Asian artists still, it's like there aren't enough of us to be like, oh,
Yeah.
who would play you? It's like, but there's a lot more. It's a lot more happening for sure. But like, yeah, it's like, yeah. But for now, me. I'm sure there's some little girl out there who could do it though, but I don't know who she is yet.